What is up? What is up? Welcome everybody off the bench. I am your host, Mark Wiggins, and we are here at it again for our series of Undefer Your Financial Legacy. We are in our 200 level series masterclass this evening. We have with us our guest, who I'll bring up shortly. Want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. First of all, make sure that you are going to offthebenchmagazine.com and subscribing to the magazine. If you ain't been paying attention to the page, I just dropped the women's issue, the Women of Power issue for 2023, and it is smoking hot. We have hitters in there. I got some hitters on my team. I've got reality TV star Winter Harris is in there. We got Christina Davis on the cover, who is the designer graphic person on the magazine, and also owner of CD Tickets and shows and events. So if you need some tickets, hit her up. She got you covered. We've got coaches in here. We've got entrepreneurs, everybody is in this magazine, so make sure you check it out. It is the biggest issue I put out so far. Got a lot of great content in there, and these women of power have something to say, and it's great information about how they do what they do and how to help you go do what you do once you get off of the bench. Make sure you go to offthebenchmagazine.com. Subscription is free, and while you're on the page, also subscribe to the podcast. I'm driving the numbers up. I'm loving my numbers going up. We've had some great interviews, some great guests. I got more coming. And I don't want you to miss it when I post them up and get things done. So let's jump in it tonight. We're not going to be before you long, as the pastors like to say. We won't be before you long this evening. We have with us the unanimous #1 overall draft pick of tonight's event, Stacy Tucker. How are you this evening? How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Mark.
That's good. Coming to the stage now, we've got my frat brother from the noble frat of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, Mr. Brother Tony Camper. Yo. Listen, they don't understand. They about to get into it. They don't get it. They don't understand. It's all good. We here. All right, listen, tonight we're in our second series of our class, of our master class, and we're talking about types of insurance, with the difference between the term and whole. So let's start off with our why don't you start off, Stacy, and talk about the differences between the two? Just give us the basics on that. What are they?
Excellent. Thanks for asking, Mark. This is educational information, not licensed, not financial advice. However, this is such an important conversation in our community because without knowing what you're doing, it creates a poor decision-making process. So when we're talking about life insurance, there are multiple types. There's really two. There's temporary and there's permanent. And so the term insurance is the one that people hear a lot about in the media from financial experts. It's exactly what it says. It's for a set period of time, 10, 20, or 30 years. You have level premiums. They don't change throughout the course of the term. At the end of the term, they can go up. We're going to talk about that in another question. And it really is designed to provide life insurance for a period. Whole life, on the other hand, is designed to last for your whole life. It does have a maturity date, normally somewhere around 121 years, so that it's unlikely that you are going to outlive it. They do build cash value. Those cash values can be used while you're living. They do take from the death benefit that your family will receive in future years. The premiums are typically higher because they're covering not just the life insurance, but also this ability to pay you dividends or cash value on the buckets of money, but it will last your whole life.
Awesome. Brother Camper, what do you have to say to that? Why are these two terms so confusing to people when you bring them up? They're like,
Well, when you bring the difference between the two, you typically start with the question of what is your purpose? What is it that you need? How much do you need? And then we have a way when we talk to people of trying to identify what that cost is, what it is that you need. Are your plans to pay off your home? Are your plans to send your kids to college? Are your plans to pay off your credit card bills? So a lot of times people will just say a random figure, but not identify exactly how they got to that random figure. Of course, we all would love $1 million, but why do we really need $1 million? So it's really, that's kind of the start of the conversation. And then we can delve into, the difference between the two and what would make most sense for that client?
Well, okay, that's a great question. Let me ask you this, and I know it's not financial advice, and you don't give it here, and I don't know none. Don't ask me. But if you wanted to know some information, how would I prepare myself to talk to professionals such as yourself? And number one, we know it's a hard thing to go do. We don't walk in. You mentioned, well, how much you need to cover. What am I trying to cover? I don't know. Can you give me some pointer lists or punch lists of things you need to have answered in your mind before you sit down and talk to an insurance professional such as yourselves to get this answer?
That's a really good question, Mark. So there's a lot of ways to get at that number. Depends on which financial advisor or what advice you're taking. Some will say a percentage times your salary, right? Some will say 5x your salary. Some will say 10x your salary. That is a very simplistic way to get at it because it doesn't also address what debts and expenses you may have.
Mm-hmm.
So you will want to consider things like, do you own a home or do you rent? How much do you owe on the home if you own it? But even if you rent, how much is the monthly rent and how much is that multiplied by 2 or 3 or 4 years that your family might still need to live there? How much do you already have through work? We discussed that last week. So if you have some through work, you should count that too in your base. Do you have debt? That's a good question. Do you want to leave someone debt or do you want to leave them an asset? So those are the kinds of things you should think about when you come in.
That's a great question because you do. What about multiple policies? I mean, do I need to have one for the debt, have one for the house, have one for the kids, have one for grandma and them? How? I'm sure from your perspective, more the merrier. But realistically, why would I have to have, or do I need to have multiple policies?
Well, that kind of goes back to the initial question of identifying what it is that you're trying to achieve. You know, if are you trying to leave, as we're talking about legacy, are you trying to leave a legacy? Do you want to leave your loved ones in debt that you've incurred while you were here? Do you want your loved ones to stay in the same home that you've provided for them while you were here? Or do you want that paid for so that that's one less thing that they have to worry? The gist of it all is to identify all your needs financially to be able to create a policy to be able to financially support those needs. So those questions are very important rather than going to a financial person and saying, hey, I need $500,000. Well, by the time we drill down what your expenses are and what you already have, you might find out you may only need $250,000 or $200,000.
Mm.
Well,
Okay.
the converse of that, Mark, is that you might find you need 3 million. It just, and you may not need the same amount throughout your whole life. That's why these conversations, we need to normalize having them on a regular basis. So as life changes, you can update. So when you asked the question about multiple policies, because they are different and because the cost picture is different, if you need a big number, term is the lowest premium way to obtain the larger numbers, the larger face amounts of in coverage. So often people will have a term policy or 2 or 3 and a whole life policy or 2 or 3, depending on what they're trying to achieve. They can stagger them. So there are combination policies where you can get a whole life policy with a term rider for 10, 20, or 30 years. When the rider expires at the end of its term, no problem. You still have the whole life policy and you obtained that in your younger years when the premium on that policy was less expensive. So we always say in our industry, as you get older, you won't need as much life insurance, but you will always need some.
Yeah.
Right. I remember having that conversation I told you last time with the OG in DC about that. And he kind of did that. He said, it was before I was 50. So he went that route. He said, get this policy here. And before it expired, before you get to be too older, then and you start making more money, we need to convert that to a whole life for you. So you'll have money building. And the premium went up, the coverage went down. But again, having that conversation, in reality, I really didn't need all that. But to do that, I need to go get a term as well, right? Something smaller to handle the debt, handle the leftover. So if there is something left after that, then is that how the legacy gets built from that point?
Yes, absolutely. So it is the most efficient way. I think you've discovered that, to pass on wealth very quickly. And so there's a couple things that'll happen in our lives, right? We're either going to live very, very, very long, or we may leave this earth early, prematurely. We don't know which, right?
Mhm.
So these things, these policies are part of a total overall portfolio of planning for either outcome. And so life insurance prepares you for an untimely or early death. If you live a long time, you may not need as much. And so, yes, that's how you leave the legacy. It's how other communities have left legacies for decades. We haven't had that opportunity, but these conversations that we're having now are so needed, so that people are educated and have the information they need to decide what works for them.
Mhm.
And you bring up a great point, Mark. This is where we talk about being uncomfortable, because these are uncomfortable conversations. It's not likely or easy to bring up a conversation about preparing for final expenses. That's just not something. In fact, I've had experience in which I've gone to clients, and I try to talk to them about their youth, and the importance of, and I mentioned this in an earlier segment, how my grandbaby, who just turned 1 years old, is worth $25,000 right now, because I started a simple policy for her at her young age, so that will grow and build. So we're not having this, or she should not have to have this conversation when she's in her 50s, as to how much life insurance she has.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing about, like you said, having these conversations and understanding it and dealing with the reality of things can help us put other people in position to do the next level thing, instead of scrambling. And if you need to do the GoFundMe, I understand, but with some planning and preparation, like you said, we can set up the next level. Take a shout out to people on the Facebook Live here. We got hey Nicole, what's going on, Nicole? Carla Dick Okerson, what's going on? Lisa Rizzo, what's happening? My cousin Kevin, he says, I want to know more about that insurance. What's insurance you're talking about, Kevin? Repeat that. What insurance you want to know about? Because we got the experts right here. We can talk about it. Cynthia, what's up, Cindy? How are you? Thank you for joining. And of course, in the office, in the house, we got Diana and Regina. So and they mess around. I'm gonna click a button and put them in this conversation. So as we get ready, one of the things we'll talk about, go a little deeper into, how do these policies undefer my legacy? That's the topic, undeferring your financial legacy. How? Somebody help me with that.
Absolutely. So if you have, so let me go back a little bit. Life insurance is for people who love someone.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those people you love aren't even born yet. You can't leave them anything, though, if you don't have a way to pass that on. If in your lifetime you can't earn that much money and then save that much money, you should get it through life insurance. Not just life insurance, but other assets. We talked about that. Your stocks, your real estate, your savings, your 401ks, things like that, other assets. But life insurance is a very simple, efficient way, and let me add, tax-free way to pass on assets to your loved ones, children, grandchildren.
Okay, no, Paul, go a little deeper now. You said tax free. You made a grand proclamation. This is tax free.
Mm-hmm.
Versus what? Why tax free? This is tax free. What's not tax free?
So you mean you want examples of things that are not tax free?
Right. Savings or anything well, but that's not tax free.
Oh, so real estate is not tax free. It's a great way to build wealth, and obviously, it's one of the first things we should do. Right? Make sure we own the earth. But it's not tax free when you go to sell it, nor cost free to sell it. Your job, of course, can't be transferred. We talked about that in the introduction call. Your stocks aren't tax free. Your 401k isn't tax free. The money, the dollars in your checking account do not pass tax free to your as part of your legacy. So our uncle and friend Sam only has two things right now that are tax free. Life insurance is one of them, and the Roth IRA. So if you don't have those in your portfolio, you're sucking sometimes 30 to 40% out of what you think you're leaving to your loved ones. So your legacy shrinks more than you wanted to. And the policy is not taxed. So while you're paying the premiums, the income that you use to pay for the premiums is already taxed, right? So you're using after-tax dollars to obtain the asset, but you're doing the same when you buy a house, right? If you buy a $500,000 home, between homeowners insurance, taxes, interest, and principal, you're probably going to pay $30,000 a month, right? To pass on that $500,000 asset. But after commissions and paying off the mortgage and the taxes and all these other things, your family may net $150,000. But if you have a $1 million face amount life insurance policy, they get every penny. Our government loves orphans and widows, so they don't tax them.
Okay. And this opens up another probably need for another conversation. Is you talk about having a policy, but how we handle it, how is it best handled or suited to really set up the legacy, right? You pay it. Does it go into a trust? Does it go here? We got to decide how they're going to split it up or what they're going to do with these assets. And I think sometimes too, we don't have that conversation, and that's just as critical as this one, is how to structure something, because you're not going to get a structure when you're not here.
That is true to me.
There's not instructions given. There's only like one. Okay, the next in line, and we're going to be still not building wealth. So what do you say to that, Tony, about getting a team together of people to help put this together?
So the simplest thing to do, and again, we're not attorneys or anything of that nature, but now we're getting into the legal realm of it, in which a will or probate attorney is necessary to structure your wishes. And that's primarily what a will is for. It's to write down exactly how you want your assets to be distributed, to be paid for, to who it's designated to go to ensure all of that as far as your other assets. Now, when it comes to life insurance, you already have your beneficiary. You can have a successor to that. You can have a successor to, you can go all the way down the line, on your family tree if you so desire. And that way there'll be a guarantee that that when that situation occurs, or when that time comes, let's just keep it 100. When that time comes, and that check is presented to you, it's going to the right person. Now what they do with that, can be further instructed in the will in which you set up, which is another aspect that part of the uncomfortable conversations that we have to have with people that they don't necessarily want to talk about. Go ahead, Stacy.
So I was going to say, we've all seen the Lifetime movies, right? Where there's the family gathers around and they're reading the will and somebody's shocked about what it says in there, right? The same can happen with life insurance. So the primary instructions on how the money gets distributed on a life insurance policy is through the naming of the beneficiaries. There's no gray about it. The name that's on there is going to get the money, the name or names. You can put 12 people or 20 people as beneficiaries, and it'll be divided evenly unless you say more specifically otherwise. As Tony mentioned, you can name a contingent. So if this person happens to predecease me, this person will get it, or this person will get it. So that part is pretty easy. Then Tony referenced like an attorney in a will to say what they should do with that money. You can put it in a trust. You can name a trust as the beneficiary. Do you want a 14-year-old to get $1 million? Probably not. So that's where the will, the CPA, the attorney, the other financial professionals come in to make sure that your wishes are carried out. And then we go back to what Tony's been saying for this whole talk, is the conversations. We need to have conversations with our family members about who's going to tuck Chloe in tomorrow night if Mama's the one that passed away, right? Those are tough conversations. It gave me chills just saying it, right? But those are the things we have to talk about when we're around the dining room table, when we're around the kitchen table, to make sure that we're discussing these things with our loved ones, especially if we have young ones or even older children, maybe who have special needs and maybe dependent on us well into their adult years. Somebody's got to have those conversations.
Right. And again, I know this is not professional advice to do something, but recommendations to go talk to somebody about it. But I needed you all to say those things, because once again, where we're focusing on one component, it's not just one thing. to building and undeferring your legacy. It's all those things, because you do have these businesses out here, these entrepreneurs, they need to be structured. You do have people who are working, they need to be structured. So if you put it all together, and this is a component of it, now all of a sudden you have a bigger plan or bigger strategy to do. And again, I think we lack in that whole conversation. We do good about the business, do good about the hustle. We don't do good about the delivery and the admin side. We don't do good about those things. And so I just need you to say that, so people, since we're sharing information, this is a 200 level class, then we need to know that when we go to the next level class, people have a better understanding that you need to start and get your Rolodex out, make your referrals, call your frats, call your link sisters, who do you know that does X, and start these conversations, because that's one of the few ways we're going to actually educate ourselves to make better informed decisions about what we do, from how much of a policy to whom gets it or how we're going to structure it. Starts with these kind of conversations. So I appreciate you all for bringing that out and sharing it to everybody.
Now you call us SMEs, bro.
I did.
You call us SMEs, and we would definitely welcome the opportunity to consult with anybody who's listening, to this. However many ears that we reach, that we touch, we certainly would love to be those people that you would want to connect with and consult with.
Absolutely.
And the good news now is that there's so many people who look like us who are in those professions now. So I get the trepidation in times past when we didn't know who to go to. An attorney, it sounds scary and it sounds expensive, right? A CPA, wow, I don't know a CPA. And even the ones I know don't talk in language that I understand. Yes, the words are English, but it sounds a little bit different. So building trust within communities of folks that look like us, that speak our language, is a key to moving these conversations forward. I know plenty of ladies who are in law, finance, other financial professionals who can help set up trust and wills and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you are the SMEs, and I'm putting the call out for other SMEs. You've just gotten a tip. You got a gem. If you're in those fields, in those areas, you want to come on this platform and run a masterclass, holler at me, and we can make it happen. And I think we need to do a bigger forum and spend more time in these areas so we can, dive in deep and get to asking those questions, because you're not going to ask them on the timeline. You're going to need to whisper in your ear, because it's hard to talk about. Like
uncomfortable.
Like, listen, I'm twitching. I don't want to.
Uncomfortable.
I didn't get this question answered because it's mama not doing well, right? And we looking at it. We ain't ready. We're not ready. And unfortunately, we're never really ready. But we can be more prepared. Like, say, having these conversations, uncomfortable conversations. All right. Well, that's it for the 200 level class this evening. We'll go ahead and leave our parting shots, and we will start with you, Brother Tony. Go ahead. What you got to say?
Yeah, brother. I just want to. It's funny, we're talking about this subject, and I have a real life experience that I just like to take a few seconds to talk about. A very, very good childhood friend of mine. I want to shout him out, Mr. Darren Tyson, Q Dog, by the way. But we grew up together, and we've had the conversation when we were in company about being prepared. And unfortunately, and God bless her soul, his mother received her wings this evening. And she was very, very dear to me in my upbringing. She was very close to my own mother, who has passed on. So I just want to say that I'm proud of him for the preparation that he has done for this event that he's about to undergo with the passing of his mom and the grieving. So my prayers and my heart are with him and his family and his children and her grandchildren throughout this process, man. And, thank you for your platform. Thank you for the opportunity again, bro. And I hope we get to interact and converse with as many people as possible. Please write in your questions, what you may have, methods in which we could get in communication with you, or we share our communication with you. But we definitely would love to have these uncomfortable conversations in order for you to be comfortable when the time comes.
All right, yo. All right, Miss Stacy, go ahead.
Well, I'm so sorry for Tony and his families and his friends lost, and there's not really a whole lot more to say, after that. But likewise, thank you for the platform. For those out there who are disturbed by some of the conversations, let this loosen up your reserves and reach out to the subject matter experts and people who can actually help you, undefer your legacy to make sure that you and your family get to pass on all the assets that you've worked so hard to build.
All righty. Thank you. Out. All right. So listen, that was great conversation again. The 200 series. We have our next one will be next Wednesday. We're talking about the latter years. Series 3, that's the last of our series. We'll be dropping this and finishing it. And do reach out to Stacy and Tony and have a conversation. You know, it's a relationship business. It's who you know, like, and trust. And I don't know of anyone else who's not been on and shared this information. If you didn't know them before, I hope you know them now. And at least say, you know what, I can relate to that. They seem real. They get it. And you're going to find out that they are. And there's probably some other people in your sphere who are real too. They waiting on you. You know, like the pastor said, we're waiting on you. So don't delay the conversation. Reach out, hit them up on Facebook, hit me up. If you don't see it, I can put you in touch with them so they can have the conversations and do it. And again, thank you for joining Off the Bench magazine and this platform. It is a blessing. It is the gifting. It is what I've been called to do, is to share this out and hopefully to move someone. I remember clearly during early pandemic, when the world stopped and everybody was kind of sitting around and logging on heavy. And I felt like everybody was looking for Mark to say something, because Mark has always said something. I've been here for years doing what I do. Mark, what are you going to say? And I had nothing to say. And God kept dealing with me. You need to talk. Well, look here, God, I don't have anything to say. This is new. How do you motivate on this one? Because I have nothing right now. I need some motivation. This is scary. I don't know what to do. And it kept coming. And the last time I said I didn't have anything to say, I was quickly reminded that I had at least 250 friends that I could call on speed dial who had something to say when I couldn't speak. All I could offer was my platform. And that's how we started Off the Bench Live during pandemic. I put a call out one night, ended up having, 25, 30 people. We went for 2 weeks straight. People coming on, motivating and talking. By the end of that whole time, I finally got my voice back to say something, to go back to doing what I needed to do, because everybody needs a break every once in a while. Everyone needs an expert to speak to. Everyone needs something else to be poured into them, and that's Off the Bench. So tonight, as we do the series, hopefully something has been said or done for you to move off your bench and start something of a process to where you want to go in life. All right? Don't know what it is. Doesn't really matter to me. It matters to you. But I will leave you with this, as always, as I sign off. As always, if you can reach your dreams with a step ladder, then they're probably too low. I'm out.